Welcome to the 2021 Indiana Black Expo Minority Small Business Series presented by KeyBank. Today's webinar topic is Alternative Funding Strategies for Your Business. My name is Jean Poole. I am the CEO of EQ Performance LLC, and I'm going to be your host. I have a leadership training company, but today I'm going to be functioning as the moderator to help you guys understand alternative funding options. I'd like to thank our sponsors and partners for this webinar. Before we start, I have a few housekeeping rules for you. First, if you have a question, please type it in the Q&A box, and we will answer as many before the session ends. Also, towards the end of the session, there will be a link to the session survey. Make sure you complete it so that we know what types of things to bring you in the future. This link will be in the chat box. We ask that you fill out the survey, as I said, so that we can make sure we're bringing you the types of things you're interested in. The panelists for today's session are Rick Proctor, Executive Director of the Indy Chambers Entrepreneurial Services and Business Ownership Institute, also called BOI, Angela Blackwell, a business advisor for the Indiana Small Business Development Center, Adam Hoeksema, Executive Director of Bankable. These are going to be our speakers. So, Rick, you're going to be our first panelist. Rick is the Executive Director of the BOI Services. He has led BOI in the strategic planning process, in the strategic planning process in transitioning resources. Hold on, let me just do that again. He has led BOI in the strategic planning process in transitioning resources to a finance lead community development financial institution, also called a CDFI. Rick, sorry for butchering that, but go ahead.
No, that's great. I appreciate the opportunity and the introduction. It's a transition that we're proud to be making because we believe that it's more responsive to the needs of our community and ensuring that minority business owners, women business owners, veteran business owners have the resources that they need, whether they're access to capital resources or whether they are sort of knowledge-based resources, whether it's in financials or in their accounting practices or in market research, whatever it is. We want to be able to be responsive and facilitate the success of people who are just living their dreams by starting their own businesses and want to be able to facilitate that as best we can.
Okay, thank you, Rick. Our next guest is Angela Blackwell. Angela is...
Go ahead.
Okay, the system just isn't working, but that's okay. We're going to get it together. Hang in there. It's going to be worth it. Okay, so as a business advisor with ISBDC, Angela provides training and one-on-one consultations for small businesses. She has operated several businesses and understands the challenges business owners face throughout all phases of running a business. Go ahead, Angela.
All right, thank you. Hi, everyone. I'm going to share my screen and just run through some notes that I have here because I want to talk about some of the alternative funding options that the other speakers will not be touching on based on their specialties, but with the SBDC, here's some of the things that we talk about to our clients on how to raise funds if the traditional routes through financial institutions don't really work for you at the time. And of course, we always say that you want to look at your own resources first and see what you can do there. Just bootstrapping your own business is really kind of the best way to do it if you're able to do that. Because one, you don't share ownership of your business, and you also won't owe any loans or anything like that. So there's no obligation. So that's the best way to do that. And if it even means holding off if you're doing a startup, if it even means holding off while you're planning and doing that research, I think that's ideal for a new business owner. And if you think about what that really means, statistically, the average business is started for $10,000 or less. And what that means is for what essentially is $27 and a little bit of change a day, if you set that aside for a year, you've got your startup funds if you are in that average business space. Friends and family is another route that you can raise alternative funds. Okay, and that kind of comes with pros and cons. I'm pretty sure all of you can kind of guess what the cons are. So we call that the 2 F's. Some people refer to it as the 3 F's, friends, families, and fools. But really, ideally, if you have friends and family, they may want to help you, even with startups, or even if you have an existing business, to raise those funds. I do caution that if you do that, it's really recommended that you sign a promissory note so that everyone's expectations are clear on, for example, if your business fails, are you still obligated to pay that money back if that's what they're looking for? You make that agreement, or if they are actually taking that risk with you. And if, unfortunately, if the business does not take off, then there's no debt still owed. And then crowdfunding, which a lot of people are now becoming more familiar with. It's been around since about 2005, I believe, through the Jobs Act, where the administration kind of moved away from only allowing from IPOs to raise funds from the public to allow for crowdfunding. And so with that, a lot of people were familiar with Kickstarter, which was one of the first crowdfunding platforms that became really popular for small businesses. And typically with a crowdfunding, you will set up a campaign. Yes, you're going to reach out to a crowd or masses of people to help fund your business. And this works particularly well if you have social media following, or if you're really active in trying to get that crowd together to look at your campaign. And there's different types. There's a reward campaign where there's different tiers or levels of what you would give back in exchange for that support. There's equity crowdfunding campaigns where investors would actually take a slice or some percentage of ownership in your business, and then also donations based. And some of based one for very small seed money, around $500 to maybe $2,000 campaigns. I've been seeing those. And then also Patreon, if you're a content creator or someone that's on doing some kind of internet, social media, that's a really good one that's really popular for donations. And Fundable and Kiva are also on those. Also in the crowdfunding space is peer-to-peer lending. Now these are outside of financial institutions, but it's a way to take on debt financing. Prosper, Lending Club are very popular in that space. And what peer-to-peer lending looks like is it's usually a little bit easier to qualify. Peer-to-peer lenders typically have their own algorithms where they assess your loan readiness if they're going to lend on you. And they usually look at alternative ways to see what risk you bear in terms of how much your interest rate will be or your closing costs will be, and those types of things. The terms for those loans tend to be shorter, 2 to 3 years. As opposed to other traditional loan routes. And some of the popular peer-to-peer lending institutions are Prosper, Lending Club. Upstart is really popular with startups. Funding Circle, Street Shares, and Kiva. Now, I want to mention Kiva because I've talked about that twice, or I've showed it twice on my slide, but Kiva is a nonprofit, it's a global organization that they are actually crowdfunding because you do set up a campaign similar to the others, but it's also a lender where they offer 0% interest loan. So I would advise you, if you're looking for something like that, check out their website. There's other caveats to getting those monies, but I have known people to raise some small funds that way. Angel investment is another way to look at that. Angel investors tend to be individuals that high wealth individuals that are looking to help startups or newly existing businesses, particularly in industries that they have an interest or experience in. And usually they're looking for some kind of exit plan, 5 to 7 year exit plan on those. And there's also some angel investor groups, and I did put Powder Keg, their local Indianapolis organization, if you want to visit their website and check out some of the different ones that offer some of those opportunities. Now, grants, government grants versus specialty grants. I do want to say that one of the, I work for the SBDC, and one of the most common questions we get is, I need a government grant to help fund my startup or to, grow my business. And that's really a myth, that those funds do not exist. There's no direct grant funding that goes directly to the entrepreneur, but there are specialty grants. So that's another avenue you can pursue. If you look at local, organizations that might provide grants that you might qualify for, typically those have special requirements in order for those to be funds that you don't have to pay back. You may have to have special requirements or reporting requirements. And there's also some other specialty grants through companies like FedEx. They have a grant that comes out annually. There's an Amber grant, I Fund Women. There's numerous grants, but they have short application windows because funds are usually limited. So you want to really kind of watch those. And there's different websites that you can go to and kind of bookmark so that you can watch those regularly. One is grantwatch.com. If you're interested, check those out. So those are the things I wanted to talk about today. And now I will turn it over to someone else. Thank you.
Wow, just wow. Thank you so much for sharing all those resources. So I thought I knew a lot. I'm encouraging you folks, stay on, because once we dive into some of this, you're going to really be rewarded today. And our next speaker is going to be Adam Hoeksema. Besides his day job as the executive director of Bankable, Adam is the co-founder of Projection Hub, a web application that helps entrepreneurs create special projections for their business. Thank you, Adam, because we know you're on vacation, so we really appreciate your joining us today.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for having me. I'm the, as Jean mentioned, executive director for Bankable. Bankable is a nonprofit small business lender. We lend to any small business, for-profit small business in the state of Indiana that is not yet bankable or able to get a loan at a traditional bank. We lend from $500 up to $250,000, and have a number of different kind of loan products and programs within what we do. To give some context, we're closing in now on hitting $50 million in loans lifetime since we started this program back in 2010. We were excited to work with a lot of really small new startup businesses. About 40% of our clients are less than 2 years in business. So we are a lender that likes to work with startups. One particular program that I just wanted to talk about in a little bit more detail here is we last month launched our Indiana Black-Owned Business Loan Fund. We have $1.5 million initially available to be able to make loans, microloans up to $50,000 to Black-owned businesses in Indiana through some support from various through some SBA funding, various bank partners, and funders were able to pull this together. So some of the key highlights I wanted to point out, we have for a credit builder loan within this program, we're doing a 0% interest rate. No closing fees for that. So it does have to be a business, though. It can't just be an individual person applying for a loan. It doesn't need to be a business, but if it's a business, then yeah, $500 credit builder loan opportunity. We also have just our normal microloan program up to $50,000, and we were able to raise some funding from partners to be able to waive our normal closing fee. Normally, all of our loans have a 3% closing fee, just to help cover some of our costs in processing that. But through some support from partners, we're able to waive that closing fee. So no fees on that. Our interest rate on that, on the normal loan, is 8 to 8.5%. And that, just so you're aware, that is going to be probably a little bit higher interest rate than you would get at a traditional bank. And we do that on purpose because we want, if you are bankable, we want you to be able to go to a traditional bank. So we are here to help those that are not ready for a traditional bank yet. So we don't want to end up competing on interest rate with a bank. Then the other thing I'd mention is a couple other perks of the program, access just to our technical assistance program, where we can help with things like getting your bookkeeping set up, paying for QuickBooks, helping to train you on how to get your bookkeeping in order, all really in an effort to help you get those financial statements in order so you can become bankable. And then we have a partnership with Mid-States Minority Supplier Development Council, and we're paying up to $500 per client for a certification through Mid-States. And we can talk a little more detail about that, whether that might be a good fit for you. It's not a great fit for every business, but for some, it can be a really good benefit. And then the last thing I'd mention is just a paid, we pay up to $200 towards a year of membership to your local Black Chamber of Commerce as part of that program if you're approved for a loan through that loan fund. So I think that was really what I wanted to hit on. So I'll pass it back to you, Jean.
Okay, thank you, Adam. Thank you. So I'm really excited to have this discussion because as a new business owner myself, as of 2 years ago, it was a real challenge trying to understand where to go and get resources. And even though I had owned another business before, I had a different type of business. So different businesses have different challenges and different resources. So I'd like to first say thank you all for giving us that overview. And now we're going to take a deep dive. Angela, I mentioned that you had a lot of really good resources that you were showing us. As a new business owner with all the resources that were out there, I found it difficult to understand what the ISBDC did, what BOI did versus Bankable. Can you give us a little bit about what the difference is?
Yeah, actually, our services are very similar to what the BOI does. The difference is we're business advisors, so we're not quite as hands-on as a business coach would be. But our services range from everything from if you're in an ideation or idea stage of getting your business going, anything to help with the startup, helping with business growth, operations. We help our clients make informed business decisions. We also help with market research. So we can run market research studies. We help them with their business plan writing by reviewing those business plans, giving advice to help make their loan package ready for the bank. And we do work closely with some of the lenders. Very familiar with working with Bankable and other local lenders in that way. And then just even business valuations, we can help with that too. So we cover a lot of things with our clients, pretty much, like I said, advisory services, and that's what we do. And we have great success.
Okay. So Rick, I want to go to you because BOI kind of seemed to me like ISBDC. So what would you give us some highlights on BOI?
I think one of the greatest aspects of the community network of organizations that we have that are working with small businesses now more than ever is that we are regularly talking. Adam and I see each other all the time. Dan Drexler at ISBDC, we see each other all the time, and we're working very hard to ensure that we're not duplicating efforts and that we're providing the broad spectrum of services that small business owners need in order to be successful, so that regardless of where folks are, like you were saying, based on industry in the ecosystem or based on the age of the company or the size of the loan request, there are times when BOI will be referring loans to Bankable. Bankable and BOI worked last year through the pandemic on PPP loans in order to be able to increase that. So while we often provide similar services, we are trying more than ever to be complementary to each other and to lift each other up, because where we are mission aligned, we know that work together on our side will provide a more diverse grouping of products, maybe specialty products, and really provide resources that the entire community needs, depending on where they're at. And so I love the movement that we're seeing through business service organizations like ours that are working together more than ever to ensure that we have the right products that our community needs at the right time. And so that's really sort of where we're at in this ever developing and growing ecosystem.
Okay. Well, again, I kind of botched your introduction, so I'm going to go back. I'm going to go back, and I'm doing this specifically because BOI is tied to the Indy Chamber, correct? Do I have that correct?
Yes, yes. We operate as the Entrepreneur Services division of the Indy Chamber. BOI has a distinct 501c3. And we're an SBA micro lender as well as a community development financial institution. And but yes, we operate right now. I'm on the floor of the Indy Chamber.
Okay. And I did that specifically because when you're a new person out there looking at all these resources, it's confusing a little bit. Where do I go for what? And as a new business owner, there are so many things that you have to do. You want to spend your time wisely. So I'm just trying to make sure people know where to go. And then Adam, I'm going to come back to you, but Angela, I want to go to you again, because also in my search, I was wondering what's the difference between the SBA and what they do and what the ISBDC does. Can you give us some insight?
Yeah, actually, the SBA, Small Business Administration, at the federal level, they're one of our funders, and we have a co-op agreement with them. And so what they do on the federal level, the most prominent thing that people recognize right now is that they were behind the CARES Act funding, administering all of the funds to help the existing businesses survive. Okay, so that's part of what they do, but they also provide funding to community organizations such as the SBDC to help local businesses. So that's kind of what we do. We are separate from the SBA, but definitely funded by them partially. We're also funded by the IEDC on the state level. And so our missions are very similar to their mission, just on the local level.
Okay. And if you've gotten funding through the SBA, that doesn't prevent you from getting funding through the ISBDC, correct?
Well, I want to correct you on that. We do not provide any funding at all.
Okay.
So that's not something that we don't do at all. It's not part of our co-op agreement. And so we just connect our clients or help them be ready to connect with other funding sources.
Okay, see, thank you for correcting me. Okay, so back to Adam. Adam, let's talk a little bit more about some of those funding opportunities. I had the pleasure of attending a presentation that you gave a couple of weeks ago. So I know one of the questions that came up was, is there a period of time that they can take advantage of this? Speak about the Indiana Black Business Owned program that you have. Can you talk a little bit more about that and any timelines associated?
Sure. Yeah, right now we have capacity to lend up to 1.5 million initially. We're less than a month into it. We have seen a good response in terms of applications, but I would say you still have a good amount of time. I don't think we're going to get through that 1.5 million even yet this year. So I would, and then I think also even once we do if we were able to lend that all out in quick order, I'm pretty confident that we'll be able to go back to our funders and say, hey, look how well this worked. We got some money out to business owners that needed it quickly, and there's a lot of demand and we need more. And I think there'll be opportunity to grow that fund as well. So, but yeah, I would say the next through the end of the year, you're pretty safe to be able to, there's still going to be funding available in that fund.
Okay, and clearly the details of all the programs are on your website, correct?
Yep.
Okay. I'm not sure how if we're gonna put all of your websites in the chat. In fact, if all panelists please could put your website addresses in the chat box, that would be great. Your presentation again brought up other questions about do you have any tools? How do we know whether we'll be accepted? I've been rejected by a bank. What's the difference in the criteria you use?
Sure. Yeah, that's a good question. So we, we are trying again not to be just a replica of the bank. We don't want to just, we're here to work with clients that are not bankable. I would say that a bank has what they often call a credit box. And so they've got these kind of sharp lines, it's like, you got to have this amount of collateral, this amount of credit score, this amount of net worth, those sorts of things that might be very specific, and they're kind of hard lines. And if you're a point below that, it might be automatically declined, that sort of thing. So where we differ is, I often say our credit box is kind of fuzzy or squiggly. So we can, maybe a low credit score here, we can make up for that because you have some extra, or you have some good collateral, or maybe the business is really profitable, but you got a low credit score, but business is going well. Or, a common example that a bank would have is a past bankruptcy. If there's a past bankruptcy, a lot of times they'll just say, or if it's too recent, they'll just, decline automatically. That's not an automatic decline for us. We've made many, probably hundreds of loans to folks that have had prior bankruptcy. So we're trying to look at the forward-looking situation. How do things look going forward for you? Not necessarily, we're not completely ignoring the past. We're still going to look at it. We're still going to ask questions, but we can be a little bit more flexible.
Can that tool that you showed at your session be found online?
Yeah. So Jean's mentioning a tool that I demoed. It's called Microloan Grader. So if you were to go to microloangrader.com, you would be able to punch in some numbers and kind of see how your loan request amount, your collateral, your credit score, those sorts of things would impact your ability to, or likelihood of getting approved for a loan. And I will say that I was doing this live demo for the group and was managing to break my own tool a couple times. So if you're going there and you get some strange errors, play around with the numbers a little bit. I think specifically it, just so you're all aware, is that if you put in that you're a startup and have 0 sales, it didn't like that. So it was throwing an error for some reason. I don't think that's been fixed, resolved yet. So even if you are a startup, list yourself as an existing business and put $1 in for sales. And I think it should, hopefully that will work for you, but it will be a good, useful tool just to see how things work there. So, yeah.
Some of the people in the room were surprised that, given their history, that they actually came up as acceptable and some as preferred. So I would imagine, Angela, since you are an advisor, you might find people who are kind of discouraged and feel that what's the point? Can you speak to that person who might say, what's the point? I'm just going to get rejected again. What are some of the things you're telling people? Thank you, Adam, by the way.
That happens. And I need to show my video. Hold on. That does happen. And, I try to tell people, there's always a workaround, and if you're not ready for, maybe if you need funding right now, that's a good time to maybe, if it's a credit issue, work on your credit while you're actually doing that research. Do more market research and use that time wisely. Learn more about who your target customer is, maybe create a buyer persona. So what I try to do is have people still be active on pursuing their goal and their dreams of starting their business while they're working on, because if you get a no right now, it doesn't mean a no forever, right? And so I just want to encourage people to keep moving forward because it can happen. And so that's kind of what we do. We just try to make sure that we're working with people and keep them in their own game.
Your service is so great. I've utilized it myself. And I'll tell you why I mentioned funding, because through the ISBDC office, I was able to get my first website created at no cost to me. So that was alternate funding. I didn't have to use my own money. So even though you're not a lender, you also, can you talk a little bit about services that may be available or no?
We do have special programs, and I think you might be mentioning the Project Hope program.
Yes.
And that was one of the CARES Act funding programs that we started last year, and it's been very successful. We've been working with IUPUI students to help build websites, work with search engine or SEO optimization for websites. We also work with local organizations to help people set up their Google Analytics and Google My Business. So we do help with those types of things that would normally cost you money if you don't know how to do it yourself. So like you say, while we don't provide direct funding, we do work with a lot of community partners. And right now we just launched a live plan. We're running our first cohort, and that's if you're writing a business plan, we have now a trainer who can walk through all those steps of that content part of the business plan, because it's very important that we have business plans. If you're looking for traditional funding or even through Bankable, and I think Adam can speak more on that typically you're going to need a business plan and usually financial projections. And so that's kind of where we do a deep dive just to make sure those are in good working order.
Okay, I'm going to take a few questions that have come in. The very first one was, why do I continue receiving no? Now, they didn't say for what, but I guess, Adam, in your case, yeah, thanks, guys. In your case, it's rare that people get no's. And if they do get a no, what are you prepared to help them do? What is that service that you have? I want you to remind them of that. Adam?
Sure, yeah. So, we do still say no often. And a lot of times what happens is what we try to do, we're always trying to get to a yes if we can. And so a lot of times people will come in and they'll ask for 50,000, the maximum, and for whatever reason we can't get comfortable, we can't get a loan committee to approve the full 50,000, and so we will drop that down and say, okay, well, we could, like Angela mentioned, maybe 10,000 is all you really need to start your business today. So let's get you approved for 10,000. So that's how we oftentimes try to get to a yes, is just by lowering the dollar amount. Now, sometimes you need a piece of, you want to start a trucking business, the truck costs 50 grand and 10,000 is not going to help you get 1/5 of the truck. You can't start without the full 50,000. So in situations where you really need the whole thing and we can't get comfortable with that, then, that's where it would just be a straight no.
But a lot of times it's not that amount or not now, as opposed to, because you mentioned, and Rick, I see you wanting to jump in there, please share.
Yeah.
No, I would agree. I think exactly what you said is so important, that it's not necessarily a hard no. It can often be, you're not quite ready yet. And a lot of that comes honestly from a heart of saying, if we were to go through with this, the $50,000 loan versus the $10,000 loan, it very well could lead to your personal bankruptcy and the end of your business. And we don't want to put you in that position. So it often is you're just not ready yet. And to answer specifically the question, why am I being turned down? That's a very unique answer. I mean, there are a lot of reasons that can lead to that. And so as a CDFI, we much prefer to say, you're not quite ready yet. And so the second question that comes in with that is, how long does it take to close a loan? And it can be as little as a couple of weeks, or it can be 6 or 9 months, because as long as a business owner is wanting to stay engaged in the process and work on those aspects that are preventing them from being approved, we continue to coach and work until we get to a point where we say, okay, now we are ready to go back to underwriting. And we've answered all the stipulations and the questions that they had. And we've walked through those things, and now those are no longer issues, and we can move forward with a yes. So, and that might be something like, pulling apart your personal and your business financials. And so that can be a lengthy and time-consuming prospect. And sometimes folks apply for that loan and they're just not quite ready yet. So we'll continue to work until we can get to the yes, find the yes, and that's the goal.
Okay, and that's great. Hey, I want to ask, is the CDFI role or a structure new for BOI, or have you always been in that space?
No, we became a CDFI in July of 2019. So, I mean, functionally, it was, not that long before the pandemic hit, and we really shifted the focus of our lending toward emergency lending for businesses that had been negatively impacted by COVID. And so, while it seems like it's been a while for us, it is still a relatively new thing for us, and it's something that Adam's been for a long time. And really, what it shows is the quality of the financial institution work that he's been doing. That they've had a loan fund since 2010. It's a quality run loan fund, and that gives a stamp of certification that, as Adam was indicating earlier, we go back to funders, and we're often taking out loans so that we can turn around and re-lend that money. If we were just to approach a bank and say that we'd like to loan out money, can we have a loan? This adds a level of certification from the federal government to say, no, they've been doing this for a while, they're experienced at it, it's a quality product that they produce, and they do it. So we've been since July of 2019.
Okay, and I asked in case somebody was familiar with BOI before, that they understood they may want to come back. And what I'm really encouraging all you business owners is, if you do nothing else, take the time to understand what resources are available. There is all kind of money out there in resources. You have got to make the time to go seek them out. You see, thanks to the IBC, we're bringing 3 great resources to you today, but you got to do your own work. And that's what business owners do what other people can't and won't. So we're trying to help you with that. I'm going to go to another question, but Adam, Angela, do you guys want to add anything at this point? No. Okay. All right. Here's a question for you, Angela. Does the ISBDC help nonprofits find grant lending or other lending opportunities? You answered the lending part, but what about grants?
Our organization works specifically with for-profit businesses, and that's kind of the directive of the SBA. That's our funder. So we don't really work with nonprofits. We usually will refer them to Charitable Allies, which is a local law firm that works from everything with startup phase for nonprofits, operations, those types of things, even legal services. And in terms of, do we search for grants? That's not something that we do either. Kind of like the presentation I showed at the beginning, we do talk about it in general on a high level and just let people know they exist. But the work that it requires, like we're talking about different industries, the types of grants are different, and they have specificities that, each potential business owner might or might not qualify for. So it's very important that if someone's interested in those specialty grants, that they actually check very often to see those. Like I mentioned, the opening application window is very short since the funds are usually limited. Some of those are geographically bound. You may have some that within certain zip codes even, or some specific to different minority groups or women or men or veterans. So those are something that if, we have our clients, if they're asking about that, we make them aware. And I have to say that we do have clients that come back and tell us that they have received grants, so we know they exist, but that's just the advice that we give on the grants.
Okay. Rick and Adam, what about nonprofits? Start with you, Rick. Nonprofits.
From the lending perspective, we do have a limited focus of nonprofits that we are able to work with, but it's not a broad spectrum. There are very limited, and that would be grocery stores to impact a food desert. And in some instances, not-for-profit daycare services. So that we are pretty much limited to those two options as far as not-for-profits. When it comes to grants, Angela said it perfectly. The ecosystem as we have now, again, Adam and I talk regularly, and we're talking with LISC and other organizations, the Indy Black Chamber, KEPRA, InnoPower, and as these organizations come across grants, and we advertise to each other. We tell each other, hey, Adam, I got this great, opportunity. We have X amount of dollars, and we're going to be giving it out in grants. And we try to funnel those things out as quickly as possible. And it's the same way, Jean, that you found resources through ISBDC. When you don't know about it, I think you said it best too, Jean, when you just said, pick up the phone, just call. Because if I don't have the resources that you need, we will often know that, Adam's got a great program right now that I think that would really benefit you well, or you should really talk to Angela because Angela's got some, and we'll make those connections for you. So just start the process of picking up the phone or shooting the email, and we'll do our best to find the resources that you need.
Okay. So Adam, did you want to add something different, or you did on what Rick had to say?
Yeah, same thing. SBA really only allows us to lend to nonprofit daycares. I'm not sure exactly why they came up with that, but that's the deal. I was curious. So it sounds like there may be a need for an ISBDC for nonprofits, unless Angela is Charitable Allies. I'm curious, and maybe for the audience, hopefully is curious too, but should we be referring nonprofits that come to us to Charitable Allies? Do they support that role?
I'm not quite sure the capacity that they can handle all the referrals. I just know that that's the one that we know that exists for that purpose. And we do have a lot of people that come to us with nonprofits or starting a nonprofit, but it's a completely different organizational model from what we are chartered to work with. And that's why we do those referrals, because they're quite a bit different. But I would encourage everyone to go to their website and check it out. And then Adam, you may decide, yes, you should probably refer there too, because I think they're better able to service nonprofits than what
that's called Charitable Allies. Okay. Thank you all. And
Thank you.
I heard someone mention LISC. Do we want to talk a little bit about LISC, Rick, or no? What do you think?
Absolutely. As small business lenders, we other CDFIs in town, we do have LISC, the Local Initiative Support Corporation, and they do a lot of lending. And Adam, you can correct me if I'm wrong if I say it incorrectly, but they do some not-for-profit lending, but mostly in the field of community and economic development. So it's very specific. We also have Build Fund as well as Renew Indy. So there are some other opportunities with those organizations as well. So they are all various CDFIs in town that do various aspects of small business lending. And so finding that the right lender that has the right product for you, it can take some research, but we'll always try to get you connected to the right organization.
So you said Renew Indy, and what was the other one? Build what?
Build Fund.
BUILD. Okay.
Yes. And Adam, you perhaps have the website for the general application that goes to all of us. So there is, we're working in this ecosystem to create a website where somebody can go. And if they're just not sure who to go to, you go to this website, you just put your information in, and then it starts peeling off to the right organization.
Okay. Hey, let's do this. Let's get some audience questions. So please use the chat box for questions. And Marsha, I'm going to have to ask. All the questions need to go through the chat box.
Gene, I'm sorry, your microphone broke up.
Oops. It looks like we may have lost her. So let me see if we can open up the question and answer box. It says, will there be handouts for the resources or an opportunity to review the recording at a later time? So I know it is being recorded. Will this be posted on IBE's website?
It will actually be posted on YouTube, and there will be links to it from IBE's website. It will be posted on YouTube, and all the handouts will be up there also.
Excellent. Now, Adam, it looks like Kiara has a question for you, because you mentioned that you've got the credit builder loan, and it says for the credit builder loan, what credit bureaus do you report to?
Yeah, we are, that's a good question. So we report through Credit Builders Alliance, and then they end up reporting to the two. I think it's TransUnion.
Yeah.
And Experian or Equifax. It's one of those two, but it's not all three, and I'm not 100% sure. Yeah, it's two of the three. And I'll say we, just on our end, when we're pulling credit at Bankable, we're pulling through TransUnion.
Okay, and and I'm back. Thank you guys for filling in for me. This technology is not my friend today. As far as the credit reporting agencies, we encourage you guys, make sure you look at your credit report, because not all companies report to the same agency. So every credit report typically has a comparison where you can see what one is reporting versus another. So get real familiar with your credit scores. While we're waiting on some more questions, let me ask a couple. What percentage of loan applications are approved, Adam?
Yeah, so I think this is a good question, because it highlights that although we are trying to say yes more often than the banks, we still have to say no. So I think for us, the amount of loans that end up getting closed from application all the way to closing is somewhere around a third. We probably get an approval for maybe close to half of our applications, but sometimes we might approve a much lower dollar amount than someone had initially applied for, and then they just decide, well, if it, I don't want to move forward with it if with those stipulations or at that dollar amount. So yeah, that's probably gives you some of the range or some idea that, it's still, and I guess too, I would just point out that, CDFIs as an industry, we expect to have maybe, I don't know, like a 5% default rate. That means we need to get paid back in full, like 95% of the time. So we have to be pretty certain, which is why why we're still tough, even if we're saying yes more often than the bank. A bank might like a 1% default rate.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Thank you, thank you. All right, questions from the audience. How do I know which option is best for me? And what kind of track record do I have to have in business to get a loan? So let's start with, how do I know what the best option is? Adam, well, Rick, looks like you were ready to go.
I think really, like we had said earlier, we would view it as it's not your responsibility to learn everybody's product set. It would be our responsibility once you come to us to find the right loan or do the right loan with you. So we have various different products that we offer, and we don't expect people to be experts in all of our products. We expect us to be experts in our products so that we can really have a relationship conversation with you, understand what your business is, what you do, what your dream is for your business, your scalability, your future profit, your contracts that you have, your cash flow. We're going to be looking at all those things and then saying, you know what, I think this is going to be the best option for you, and here's why. Or perhaps even better yet, maybe we don't have the right product for you, and Adam does. So again, you don't have to be our expert, but just pick up the phone and get started with one of us, and we'll work to find the right product with you.
Okay, thank you, thank you. So Adam, I know you have a product that if they're not ready, you put them in a program to get them credit ready. Could you talk a little bit specifically about that and the $500 startup program?
Yeah, so, I think I had mentioned that we have a $500 credit builder loan. Sometimes people's credit is actually not the issue as well. And it might just be, they have good credit, but they don't have some of the other aspects that they're quite ready. So a lot of times we'll do a relationship builder loan, which is also probably just, $500 to a couple $1,000s, where a good example would be, let's say your bookkeeping is just a box of receipts. And we're like, we don't know if you're making money yet or not. We think you might be, but we don't really know because you haven't done the bookkeeping. But we think you have enough going that we'd like to give you a couple $1,000s as a relationship builder, and then try to help you get your bookkeeping in order, so that then you can come back and really fully request, the $20,000 or whatever it is that you might have wanted the first time. So that is a common occurrence.
So the key is ask the question, reach out, ask the questions. And if you're not ready, they're going to help you get ready. I'm going to take another one. And this might be good for you, Angela. Is it best to have an attorney or a business coach to review the business plan before presenting to investors? Because I know you do a lot with helping people with their business plans.
Yeah, I mean, I would recommend a coach or an advisor, someone with financial background. I can't say that an attorney is not good to review the business plan. It's just not the typical route. And perhaps maybe the type of industry, maybe an attorney would be good if there's a lot of legal interactions and things like that. But in general, most of the business plans that we review don't require an attorney to look at those.
Okay. Rick, what are your thoughts on your team to supporting you?
I would say it depends on what you mean by investor. So are you talking about, strictly speaking, somebody in a private investor, or are you talking about a bank or financial institution? Absolutely. I think that that if you can have anybody with experience review your business plan, it's a great idea, and because they can give you their thoughts on it. As a matter of fact, I would go so far as to say, if you're working with your traditional financial institution, your bank, and your banker is not willing to sit down with you and talk about your business plan, I personally would find a banker that wants to be as invested in me as I am in putting my money in their bank. And you'll often find that bankers are willing because they want to get that loan done as much as you do. And so they are willing to look at that business plan and talk about it. But it depends on who your investor is, but getting qualified, experienced advice is always a great idea.
And a CPA is a good one to help you. And as Angela said, depending on your business, but you really want to make sure your financials are intact. And as you're setting up your company, as whether you're an LLC or S Corp, get some advice from someone to help you. And that's a big part of the business plan. Okay, do you use social security numbers or do you use the business EIN to build business credit? That's real key. Adam, why don't you take that first? So if I fill out the application and you're looking at my loan, are you using my social security number or my EIN?
Yeah, so within small business lending, until you get very, very large, every lender is going to look at your personal credit. Once you get to a certain size, and we're talking probably, millions and millions of dollars in revenue and been around for a long time, that business credit through like Dun & Bradstreet becomes more important. But, we've worked with some very large businesses, and, if you're working with SBA, I think, even up to a $5 million 7A loan request, any owner 20% or more of the business is going to be required to personally guarantee, which means they're going to be looking at your personal credit, personal financial information.
Okay. All right. Thank you. There's a whole different channel that you guys can tap into if you want to make sure that your EIN is being used. So just go to Google, that will tell you anything, and look up that channel. So Adam, this question is for you. How do student loans affect a decision to get alternate funding? This gentleman says he's been denied through banks before, and he was told the reason was student loans. So how does Bankable look at this?
Yeah, I guess it depends on if it's just that you have student loans, then we would look at that just as we would look at other debt as well, and it would play an impact or play a role in a decision process because you have additional debt to pay. Now, some of the tricky thing would be if we're using the SBA loan funding, which typically we are, and if you have defaulted on any federal student loans, there's this little platform that the SBA wants us to go and do a search and check to see if the applicant has ever caused a prior loss to the federal government. So if you've defaulted on a federal student loan, then you might show up on that KVERS report, which would make it ineligible for us to lend to. So that could be the problem if it's a default. Now, if it's just you have a lot of student loans, then it's more of just like, can you cash flow? Can you pay those and pay the business loan payment as well?
Thank you for that clarification about whether you actually defaulted or whether you just have a large number. So if you've got a bunch of loans, go ahead and apply. Student loans, that is, go ahead and apply. If you've defaulted the federal government, you're on your own. Okay, so I believe we answered already. Do any of these programs go off personal credit versus Angela? Did I see a raised hand? Okay, so these go off your personal credit, as Adam shared. How do I know if an angel investor is legitimate or not? Angela, what do you think about that?
I was going to say something funny, but I won't. I was going to say, if you ever get the money, that's pretty legitimate. But, I don't know if anyone remembers William Mays, who's the founder of Mays Chemical Corporation here in Indianapolis, but he was an angel investor, and he helped quite a number of small businesses get funding. You'll know, because typically a lot of angel investors are people you may know, or who may know you, and they have what they call the warm investors. Those are people that kind of know you, and the cold investors, those are ones you go and seek, and then you have to kind of work with them to convince them that you're worth the risk of them investing their money with you. And like I mentioned on the slide, there's actually some websites that you can go and see if there's angel investors that you can work with. The key thing is if you are working with an investor in some way, you have to fund or pay for anything upfront. That's probably a good indication that you need to look elsewhere.
Okay.
Just
thank
do
you.
your homework and be careful.
Okay. Rick, do you have a thought on angel investors and finding ways to say anything different than Angela offered?
No, I think she was spot on. And it's about relationship. It's about knowing them. If they're really going to be giving you money, then knowing them and understanding what their investment is, why they're investing in you, and look beyond the promise of cash to understand why they want to be involved in your business. And as Angela said, a huge red flag would be you paying anything up front.
Yeah, that is the same for a lot of these sites that tell you they'll find you a grant, because someone asked, where do I find grants? When you go out there and Google, there's a difference between the grants that the federal government is offering and those companies who make you pay. So if you have to pay for the grant information, that's not a federal or state grant program. So be wary of that. Lindsay, who gave us the note about the nurturing for nonprofit organizations, could you please put that link in the chat? She's sharing an Indy Public Library grant, and it's called Nurturing the Nonprofit Organizations. So Lindsay, if you're still on, if you'd put that in the chat. If Lindsay is gone, go to the public library. And that's key. Where do you find these grants? Get out there on Google. You can ask Google anything. You don't even have to type it in anymore. Google, where are the grants in Indiana? And you're going to get information. Okay. Angela, does your organization coach from the initial planning phase to the actual business launch? Do I get a personal coach so I don't have to pay Jean Poole and her company for coaching? Can I get it free?
Yes, we do. Actually, I personally work closely with the new startups. So in every 2 weeks, I do a launch your own business workshop. So check out our website. It's isbdc.org. But yes, we work with small businesses through all phases of the business.
Okay, thank you, thank you. If you've had difficulty reaching any of our panelists, keep trying. I know that Bankable has added a new person to support Adam. Adam, someone is mentioning they've tried repeatedly to reach you and they're having difficulty. Just keep trying. There are resources out there. And if you're going to be a new business owner, you've got to have fortitude and stick-to-itiveness. So just keep trying. The resources are there. And Adam's office is in Anderson, Indiana. Adam, do you have offices anywhere else?
Just in Anderson is our physical office. I would say if you're having trouble, if you go to our website, bankable.org, you can apply there online, and that would definitely get you in the queue. There should be a live chat on our website as well that you could chat, and someone would make sure to follow up. So yeah, hopefully, hopefully that would.
Thank you. Deidre, you're asking, are there certain business types that are preferred? Well, we shared these are for-profit companies, but Alice has shared with me that the IBE has a lot of relationships with community organizations. So go to IBE's website. Go to the Urban League's website, go to these organizations that are about supporting the businesses that may have had more challenges. All right, can someone offer advice on attracting new angel investors? Anybody want to offer any advice on getting a new angel investor? Or just go to the web? Relationships, I think you said it. Talk to people that you know. Talk to your accountant, talk to your CPA, talk to your attorney. And if you don't have a team of accountants, attorneys, bankers, you need one if you're going to be in business and stay in business. So if nobody has anything different on that, I'll move on. Okay. Did I see a hand, Angela?
Yeah, Gene, I want to add that when you're approaching any investor, but particularly an angel investor, it is about building that relationship, but it's also about you have to show them that you have well researched that industry that you're going into, that you also have some skin in the game. You know, they're going to be looking for you to believe enough in your business to have some money on the table that you're putting into. They will most likely will ask you if you've talked to your friends and family and what they have invested in your business. So just keep that in mind. You've got to really show them that you've got this business that you are trying to start that you know can generate some kind of return for them. And then you might want to talk about, they're going to ask you, what does your 5 or 7 year plan look like? You want to say, I'm looking at in 7 years, I have a 7x return or 5 times return, so that they know that, say, hey, you know what, let's talk and I can talk to you more about this. But if you're just really in an early idea stage, you're probably not going to get their attention if you're looking for an angel investor. So you really got to do a lot of upfront research on your business. Okay.
Okay. And Angela shared earlier that their office does help you with business evaluations. So Angela, while Adam's office is only in Anderson, you can reach him online, of course, because the web is everywhere. Rick, you're down in Indy in the chamber office, but Angela has counterparts around the state of Indiana. Angela, how many different ISBD offices are there? Or should they just go to the web and look up their local one?
Well, actually, here in the state of Indiana, there's 10 centers. Now, we cover all 92 counties. So I'm with the central region, and our office covers 8 counties, Marion County and the surrounding donut of counties. And actually, nationally, we cover the entire U.S. plus the U.S. owned territory. So there's about 1,000 centers across the nation. But here in Indiana, we cover all counties. So if someone's on this call or this video or webinar today and they happen to be outside of the counties we serve, they can find a local SBDC nearest them in their county.
Okay, thank you. There are some other questions about crowdsourcing and a lot of the things you listed on your initial presentation, Angela. But I'm going to ask the person who asked that question, and anyone else, reach out to your ISBDC office. I would ask you, Angela, to speak to the market research that's done. People may not understand, what exactly does that entail?
Well, there's a lot that goes into that. And in general, when you are starting your business, it's really important to know what market you are entering. Is it saturated? Is there space for your market? How are you going to differentiate yourself from your market? Who are your competitors in the market? And also, who are your potential customers or clients? Okay. And so part of that market research, like, for example, some of this reports that we run might be like an IBIS World report, where it's an industry report that gives you an overview of what the prospect of that industry is. In the next 5 years, are you looking at a 3% growth rate in that particular industry that you're in, or are they showing a decline in that growth rate? So you want to start really high level to kind of see what is this market looking like, and then start going down more granular in terms of doing that research. If you're in a geographic area, you're going to say, I'm going to be working on the west side of Indianapolis. So you're going to run some more ring studies to see what that neighborhood looks like. What are, the income levels? What does the demographic look like? What are the buying patterns? So there's so many different types, and that's just naming a couple, but there's so many different types of market studies that you want to do. But that's one area that I think is key, because when you're proving your concept, you really need to know that there's a need or a want for your product or your service.
Absolutely. And not just in your own mind. Somebody else needs to want your product. And what Angela is talking about is the information that they can help you research will help you complete your SWOT analysis, which is S for strengths, W for weaknesses, O for opportunities, T for threats. So the BOI folks can help you there. Adam has resources that can help you, definitely the ISBDC, and our good friend, Google. If you don't remember anything else, remember Google. So we have answered all of the questions here. This has been a great panel. Thank you, everyone who joined us. I will ask, are there any last comments that you all want to say or want to offer, something that you said, oh, I wish I had said this? Anything from the panel? Okay, see, that's the mark of a good panel. They've given it all to you. They put it all on the table. So I want to thank our partners. First, I want to thank IBE and Alice Watson and her team. These educational series happen about once a month with different topics. Alice Watson's office takes the time to vet whether it's a good opportunity for you. In addition to that, they have a lot of community initiatives. So I encourage you to go to their website, go to BOI's website, go to all of these sites. Thank you, KeyBank, for being a continuous sponsor of educating this population of people. And I want to remind you, complete the survey, because this helps us create programs that are designed by you for you. Remember FUBU? Well, that's what we're doing. So thank you again. With that, this brings our program to the end. If you'd like to reach me, again, I'm Jean Poole. You can reach me on LinkedIn. You can reach me on Facebook. I love supporting people. I work with a lot of different groups, which is why I know about all these organizations. I've gone to them. I've gotten help. And even when I thought I knew, I asked anyway. So that's what I would encourage you all to do. Thank you for spending an afternoon with us. And we wish you the most success in your businesses. Go out there and take the money, make the money.